everyone. Welcome to an end of the day Q&A. So you've probably had a ton of sessions today, absorbing a ton of content. We're here today to go light on the slides and to help answer your questions on Power Apps and Power Pages and Dataverse. So my name is Emma Cooper. I'm a Principal PM Manager on the Power Apps team. And I also have with me Julie and Cindy.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie. I'm a product manager in the Dataverse team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cindy Kwan. I'm a product manager on Power Pages, working on the local maker experiences.
By the way, we actually also have Nathan here, who's going to be helping out with the moderating and everything. So, yeah. All right. Just a couple of announcements here. Like the session will be recorded, so probably you've seen this slide before, but just making sure that you're aware that this session is being recorded. All right, I think we did the introduction. I think actually to get us sort of grounded on the topics of conversation that we can go through today. So we have a couple of slides, but we won't, go over too much in details from the slides perspective. You can start asking questions. So, so my specialty is in this new feature that we've actually just launched, which is called Excel to Table to App in less than 3 clicks. And essentially, you have this, if you have Excel file, you can bring it to Dataverse, and then it will be able to create an app, and it uses AI technology.
On the Power Apps side, you can use data through Dataverse or any of our connectors, leverage components out of the box or build your own, and leverage Power Effects in order to build what you need in an app. So there's a lot of different integrations available in Power Apps, including with the rest of the Power Platform. And CoPilot can also has been a big topic of discussion today. I'd be interested to see how many times CoPilot was mentioned in all the transcripts today. That'd be a fun thing. But there's also one in Power Apps that will help accelerate your development, leveraging a lot of the same things that you can do manually. Now CoPilot can help you stitch together those actions. Over to... So... I forgot. I also added and in case for those who are new to the Power Platform, there's a ton of different data connectors available for you to connect with, built into all of the experiences on the platform that you can leverage. So pulling in data from where you want to, from REST APIs, or using more tabular sources as well. In addition, you can create your own APIs and connectors to connect to what you need and leverage those in the Power Platform as well.
And we also have Power Pages, which is the newest addition to the Power Platform family. And Power Pages is basically the local platform for building enterprise-grade websites on business data for your customers and partners. So you probably heard a lot of buzz today, like Emma was talking about for CoPilot. So on Power Pages, as we are introducing the Maker CoPilot experiences to quickly help you build a custom site quickly. So you can create new web pages, customize your text content, as well as create forms, data forms built on top of Dataverse. And then, of course, when we talk about Power Pages are dedicated for business websites, and there's always a lot of business requirements. So Power Pages actually offer a lot of tools and capabilities for developers and makers to extend their sites. So some of the examples I have here that we had shown earlier in some demos were around like web templates, which is a Power Pages custom component for adding custom functionality and layout to your sites. And then we also support code components, which is based off of the Power Platform component framework for adding custom functionality. And of course, when developers are building sites off of Power Pages, you can also leverage VS Code for Web, and we have contextual integration with VS Code for Web to launch those experiences. So this is a quick summary of what we have kind of covered today. Hey, but we're open to any Q&A questions that you may have.
Cool. So we'll do for folks who are in the room, you can raise your hand and we'll go around and select questions from there. For folks who are online, we'll have our lovely moderators kind of go through those and call them out to us so that we can answer them. Cool. We'll start over here.
I was very interested with Thank you. I was very interested to see the text to table, I guess, to Power App functionality that you're talking about. Is it possible to do a kind of a live view of that, or to dive a little more deeply into that? Thanks.
So are you just kind of like asking for an overview, or what were you thinking?
I would certainly take an overview. Is something live?
Got it. So for folks online, asking for more of an overview about the natural language to table capability where you can create a Power App, right? So essentially a new functionality that is now available in all US region Dataverse environments, so folks can go try this out today, is you can enter a simple string, a simple description of what type of app you would want to build. So for example, if I wanted to say, track an inventory for parts, for example, what that will do is that we'll go and query and understand using the LLM around, okay, what is involved in an inventory app, right? And so that would be like, you probably want a quantity, you probably want the name of the item, you might want price or other types of things. And so with the knowledge of the model, we're able to go and quickly generate a table with the relevant information for that scenario. And so we'll hopefully be able to identify the right column types as well associated with that, right? Because if there's dates involved in that inventory table, so for example, like when it was restocked last, we want it to be of type date. And so we're able to go and kind of quickly generate that table with all of the relevant schema structure, and then also pre-populate it with some sample data as well. So you can kind of quickly see and get started with that app. And so with that table created, I can also leverage the CoPilot to do commands like, asking it to add more columns, asking it to remove columns, asking it for more suggestions. For example, it might suggest to me you might want to add these additional types of columns you didn't think about for your inventory scenario. And so with that table built and with the ability to continue to edit it in that multi-turn conversation with CoPilot, we can then go and create an app on top of it that is already pre-connected to that table with a gallery and form that can read and write and so on top of that table. So that's kind of the general overview of how that works, and it is available today for folks to go try that out.
We have a question online. This is from Manisha Kumari. How can we leverage the CoPilot for Power Apps and Power Platform, and when will it be GA?
Do you want me to take that one too? All right. So right now, we're all moving quite quickly on releasing these copilots, and it is our desire to get them out to everyone as soon as possible. On the Power Apps side, as I mentioned, the natural language to table and app capabilities are available today. The additional capabilities you might have seen demoed today, such as App Copilot, where you can add a control to enable your end users to ask natural language queries about the data in the app. That is something that is currently still gated behind a waitlist. You can go sign up at aka.ms/PowerAppsAI preview. And we hope to have that released over the next couple of months in June and July. So that's for Power Apps.
Okay, so for Power Pages, actually, the natural language to text and the natural language to form experiences are already available in preview. So if you go to make.powerpages.microsoft.com and start creating a site there, you'll be able to access those capabilities. And then the other one that we had demoed this afternoon today was around creating web page with CoPilot. That one will be coming soon in the next couple of weeks.
And the follow-up on that was GA.
GA, like Emma said, we are moving fast, so we don't have a specific GA date yet, but they are all available, at least on make.powerpages.microsoft.com.
Yeah, and so for the Excel to table one, it's also in public preview. You can try it out on the make.preview.powerapps.com. That's how you get started. Yeah, and GA, yeah, also still TBD.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to like GA. Currently, most of these features are only available in the US region in English because that's where the base Azure OpenAI models are available. We eagerly are looking forward to expanding into other regions and languages over the next several months as that support expands and hopefully GAing as we bring support to more of those regions.
How can you secure Power Apps with Azure AD authentication? And another follow-up question is that the CoPilot is available for Dataverse.
I can answer about authentication. So when I'm in the Power Platform and in Power Apps, I am logged in as myself. So me as Emma, I have my own, Azure AD person and authentication available there. So any services and everything else that I access, I log in as myself. So anything, for example, in the Microsoft Graph or other places where, that information is relevant, the context is me because I'm logged in. And so naturally that restricts, what I have access to because it's, what me as the user has access to. Is that kind of the question?
But what about the external users? What about the external users?
So,
And the question is that if you're login, so means if your browser login, it will get the information of your user name and the password from the browser and pass it along with to the Power Apps. Is this for pages? Power Apps, sorry.
Yeah, so for Power Apps currently requires all users to be logged in with Azure AD. So there is no anonymous, access to Power Apps. However, that is a core scenario of Power Pages for websites for connecting to external customers. And so, Cindy, I don't know if you wanted to add more to external users in Power Pages.
Yeah, so on Power Pages, one of the key differences between Power Pages and Power Apps is that Power Apps is more like focused on building apps for internal usage within your organization, and Power Pages is more focused on building websites or web apps for your external audiences, right? So if you build a Power Pages site, for example, you can have anonymous users use your site, just like any other website, or you can also set it up to have AAD authentication as well.
Yeah, I think there was another question about CoPilot in Dataverse. So Julie.
All right, I'll take that one. So the two, I guess, actually it's more like three more prominent, CoPilot experiences with Dataverse is that Excel to table to app. So that's one of the ways of using LLM or GPT technology under the hood to be able to guess the table names, column and column data types. The other one, which is the NL to table that Emma mentioned earlier, that table is stored in Dataverse. So that is you can do more like a kind of chat experiences there, whereas the Excel to table is more like it's under the hood. It's not a chat experience, at least not today. And the third one is related to the apps CoPilot, where you can actually chat with your data essentially. So and there's that UX control. So it's a good combination of how to leverage Power Apps, CoPilot, as well as working with your data. So.
I just wanted to follow up on the Excel to app. I know, I think correct me if I'm wrong, it only works at the start of it, that once you want to create an app from scratch, you feed it an Excel file, but you can't come back later and then supply another Excel file.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is our first preview. So if you have only one kind of data set in an Excel file, it will create a new table today and a new app. But some of the scenarios that you mentioned, we are actually considering that. So we will definitely look into prioritizing as more feedback comes into. Yeah.
We have another online question from Alex Nociara. Hopefully I did your name justice. Does CoPilot AI in Dataverse understand lookup columns? And secondarily, does Excel to table understand multi-spreadsheet files with linked fields?
Sorry, what was the first one?
The first one was, does CoPilot AI in Dataverse understand lookup columns?
Right. Yeah. So not today, but we've heard it a few times from people. So this lookup thing must be really popular, hey?
And then the second was, does Excel to table understand multi-spreadsheet files with linked fields?
Yeah. So not today. I think it's very similar to the first question, which is the lookup bits. Linked fields. Actually, I want to talk a little bit about the formula in Excel. I think that's also another popular one that we get asked too. Like, how do you convert this formula and make it understand in the kind of data-first way? So that's definitely something that we're considering in our backlog too. So.
Be a quick one. Julie, in your previous response, you said something about chat with your data.
Mhm.
Is it possible to give any kind of overview on what?
Yeah. So, or Emma, do you want to talk about it? Okay, so I'll give it a go, and this is a test because we work with Power Apps quite a bit here. So as a maker, you can create an app today, right? When you create the app, there's this UX control called the Apps CoPilot UX control. You can drag and drop, and then you can configure it so that it will be able to respond to the data that supports the app under the hood. How am I going with that, Emma?
I mean, you got it right. But just to kind of add to that, one of the core challenges we see in a lot of the interfaces and apps today is that users have a hard time finding stuff. Right? Like, how many questions are there out there where people are like, oh, like I want to filter by this, or I can't like get this split, right? And today we're building all sorts of UX around those experiences. With the CoPilot control, I can simply add that on, connect it to my data, and then I've got, immediately an intelligent capability in my app that can go reason over that data and provide answers, right? So again, like if we have like that inventory table, instead of going and filtering and searching through and trying to find like, okay, what are we low on inventory on? Like, what region is it in, or whatever else? I can just simply ask that CoPilot control, much like you would in, Bing Chat today or however, just type in and be like, what is the lowest inventory, in the US today? And it can come back and tell you that answer from the data in those tables. So that's kind of the kind of end user aspect.
We have. So the question was, can we also actually take action on that data?
Yeah. So it can do Q&A. In parts, it can also like direct you to those capabilities, right? For example, like if it knows that I, am looking at for a particular account, it can suggest like going to that specific, form or view or page, as that's a part of the app. So it does that navigation as well. For those actions themselves, that's currently not something that's available, but that's clearly the next step for where we want to go, is to help, those user experiences be able to actually go and do those actions on top of the data that you would go and want to do in that CoPilot fashion.
We have one online, and then I'll come right back to you. The question online is from Harini Manga. Today, I was able to create a preview environment, but could not add Dataverse. When would we be able to do this?
Julie?
A preview environment, but cannot add Dataverse. Was that the?
That is the question, yes.
Yeah. Actually, I'm a bit out of my depth here.
So I believe in the preview environments today, currently it's restricted as to who can add Dataverse. That has been something that we've been talking about, how we can better flight features that are early and kind of like in preview better out to customers. So I think if it's not there right now, you might have to wait like, a week or two until it reaches the region that you're at. But hopefully that will work for you.
So A couple of things that I wanted to add here. If you're trying things out, I think the developer environment would be one of the places that is good to try. Like if you're talking about the make.preview itself, it does, especially if you leave it dormant for a while, you might not actually get the latest bits and, but if you're pretty much using make.preview quite a bit, then you might actually see some of the latest bits. But I would recommend using the developer environment whenever you can, unless you're trying really, the really newest bits of the preview features.
With regards to the Copilot, as you described a couple of minutes ago, does it mean that search and filter and all those codes that we previously wrote for searching in gallery, etc., that they won't be applicable anymore? There's no need for them anymore if we have the Copilot.
So I think that's a great question. I think we don't know yet, right? Like this is just hot off the presses. And I think for a long while, like we still want people to be empowered to go and do those actions manually on their behalf, right? It's what people are used to today. I can go search and I can go filter and I can go like sort my tables and my galleries. Like that is all things that people know how to do today. And so we want that, to continue to be there because that's what people know. But with the introduction of Copilot, it is a transformative experience, right? Because I can go and get all the answers and get those insights all in one kind of text field. And so it likely will change the way that applications are built, but I don't think we know yet exactly, where that will be.
And one thing I just wanted to add to that is also around like when we talk about Copilot, we're really talking about how you jumpstart the app and site building journey, right? So we don't expect that Copilot will get you 100%, necessarily 100% the way that you want your app. But I think like one way to think about it is like how do you get started quickly and then really you continue to use the traditional tools to continue to refine and edit your app to meet those requirements that you have. So that's one way for you, or at least like in our team that we think about how, like when do we recommend people using in Copilot and how does it work with all the traditional tools and everything that you've learned about app building and site building.
So and the question was that will the user have access to Copilot just as the developer has access to Copilot, even though they have different use cases?
Yeah, so Copilot can work for two different what we call personas. So one that assists developers or makers to build whatever they need. I think that's closer to what Cindy just mentioned earlier. Whereas the other scenario, what you were saying is with, hey, as an end user, I'm looking through maybe this kind of inventory, the product names. I kind of know how the product, maybe SKU starts. Maybe it's like ABC. So if I type in ABC, it will kind of start showing the list. So that is kind of like a well-known, I guess, experience that you can do. So that's a kind of more on the search side of it, simple search or simple filter. Of course, this Copilot, but the interesting thing about Copilot is typically it allows you to kind of like chat with it a little bit more. So you don't always, so if you want to start with something that is a bit more ambiguous, that's where the Power Apps Copilot that we've been talking about can really actually shine. Because as an example, you don't really need to know, actually I'm searching this specific product name, and that is the actual field that I'm going to search. But if you use search in the gallery as an example, typically needs to be a little bit more, I guess, concrete on which field you want to search on, right? So two different experiences. You can we are in an interesting world where as a developer or as a maker, you kind of have to start thinking, do I want the user to do a specific search or a little bit more like with some I guess allowance to kind of start exploring a little bit more. In some cases, it might not be the interaction that you want. In some cases, maybe you just want to search for product name, in which case search would be probably better.
All right, we have a few online questions. So one is, we saw a new Power Automate interface demoed earlier today. Is that available now?
So I don't think we have anyone from Power Automate on the panel, but I attended a session prior where I heard that that is something that folks will be able to go try out now or in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Another one. When Copilot is using the Dataverse data, what's the chance of an answer being an AI hallucination?
I'll take that one. So we're working really hard to kind of think through some of these hallucination problems. So under the hood, it's not just like, oh, we're just going to use what's out of the box, but under the hood, we actually do something more to make it a little bit more accurate, and we are doing a lot more testing on this as well. In fact, as part of the responsible AI, I guess, compliance, we do really need to think through about, the hallucination rate and, the accuracy and things like that. But yeah, we're working over time to improve it too.
I've got one more, and then I'm going to come back to the room.
I just wanted to add on that. So for kind of like all these models, right? There's kind of like the prompt that goes out. There's stuff that we do to kind of check these things, right? Like first we want to check relevancy and if it's grounded in the context that it's asked in. Because, for example, if I'm working on business data, I want to check that it's, a relevant prompt for this context. And so that's something that we do to help prevent, malicious actors from coming in and asking bad things. But also on the output side, we also do a grounding, I guess, relevancy check as well. So the prompt that comes back from the model, we also go and check and be like, hey, like, is this relevant to the data, that we have the context of? Is it relevant to the scenario that stuff is being performed on? So there are those checks that are happening. I don't think we have a specific like percentage or error rate right now to communicate, but we do kind of flag that, at least the response that comes back is kind of grounded and relevant in the context in which it has been asked.
All right. And I'm going to just do one more quick one here, and then we'll come back to the room, which is some features showed today are in private preview. How can we get access to the private preview?
So we're both like private preview. What? So I know for the app Copilot features inside of Power Apps, that's where you have the end users able to query over the data in the app. That is something that you still need to sign up for at aka.ms/Power Apps AI Preview. So that's the one I know about that is still available to folks, but needs application.
Kind of two questions, but they are interlinked. One is that when we talked about Copilot doing the search for the user or prompt, you ask a question, it can also do when the content is a long text as well. It can search through the text and give a specific answer to the questions, because some apps are built based on very concrete data. There are apps that are built based on, let's say, reports or something like that, and then it's a long text that people write. Would the Copilot be able to go through the long text, and give the respond based on the long text?
Yeah, so the technology is definitely there. In some cases, for example, trying to make sure that I don't overshare here, but there are some Power Platform experiences, and I cannot recall which one, and this is where I have to be really careful. But that is one of the things that we are looking into as well. So summarizing text as an example, the technology is already there. Like you can see it even from the Microsoft 365 sort of features. It's already there. So I think there's some in Power Platform already. And I'm trying to remember, is it Power Automate? If I remember correctly, already start having that. So it just be on the lookout.
Okay. And is there a reason that Microsoft list? So because your Power App can also be fed by Microsoft list instead of Dataverse. Is there a reason that you don't have Copilot for when the data comes from SharePoint?
So SharePoint list, we heard it a few times from people today, actually, about the SharePoint list, even in the previous session as well. It's not available today, but we're looking for feedback from people. So it's good to hear that SharePoint seems to be quite high up there in terms of asks.
In the personal productivity, that's the only thing that can right now in many companies.
Right. Yeah, the audience here is saying that personal productivity uses SharePoint quite a bit, so it would be a great help to be considered in CoPilot. Yeah.
For the Copilot search component, which you talked earlier, does the security gets applied so that end user cannot ask for something which they don't have access to?
Yeah, so if we're talking, just to make it a bit more concrete on the Power Apps Copilot perspective, think of it this way, like in Dataverse, we have this row-level security. So what we're doing really under the hood is translating that natural language to the appropriate query language that we need to have it and execute it against Dataverse, just similar to like as if you are actually fetching the data. So if the person doesn't have any access to that row, then it wouldn't use that as part of the answers. So it does honor all the way through. Yeah.
And when we add that component on an app, I saw that we were selecting tables from our Dataverse, so we can select as many tables, and it will query that. Or
yeah, I think the.
Today it's just one, but we are looking to expand to larger data sets very soon because we know that's a high value scenario.
I know we have another online, so let me just get back to the laptop 1 second. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me make sure. Oh my goodness, there's a great big one. Hang on. All right. So somebody did ask about revealing sensitive data. I think we've already addressed that question. What would be the starting points or requirements to be taken into account to easily integrate the work of developers and artificial intelligence in application development?
Can you say that one more time?
Yes. So what would be the starting points or requirements to be taken into account to integrate the work of developers and artificial intelligence into application development? So I guess the idea here is if the developers and artificial intelligence, we're kind of taking the information together to develop an app, and how would we incorporate both of those into a development type project?
Today, developers and low-code makers are already kind of work together on applications, right? We already have developers who are building in these low-code experiences. We already have developers building out custom APIs and custom controls in Visual Studio and otherwise to contribute to these experiences. So developers are already, actively a part of the product today. And with the introduction of AI, into the experiences, this is kind of, the co-pilot to help supercharge a lot of that productivity. So a lot of the same things that developers, did before as a part of building out applications, they can also continue to do. But in the parts, where they are working, they can also leverage the AI to help them perform tasks more efficiently or to, take a lot of that menial tasks off of their plate. For example, like the table generation with all the sample data. I know there's a lot of people who have sat down entering a lot of sample data so that they can do testing. A great example to get, that menial task off your plate. So in general, like developers can continue to do what they're doing today. AI can help you. I also think if you want to plug into the broader kind of AI movement with plugins and other capabilities where you want to build out your own AI capabilities, that was also covered a lot today as well. So you can actually build out a custom connector, which is basically an API that can be leveraged across a bunch of the different Power Platform capabilities and beyond in the rest of the Microsoft suite. So that's another way where developers can also get started with these AI capabilities with the platform.
All right, I've got another one online then if we don't have one in the room. I believe the future is near when AI will take root in our lives, but it is sometimes difficult to make decisions based solely on materials that are available digitally. Should we have more sensors and, for example, cameras and microphones in the company, information on conversations among people in the company, facial and body movements, and other communication and emotional, I just scrolled past it, Sorry, my mouse is not working. So, emotional subtleties so that we can dig deep with authority to make better judgments. So it's basically expanding beyond digital content and chat to use other forms of input to help make decisions through AI is the root of the question. Thank you. I'm trying to make it an experience for the listener.
By the way, for folks who know, I call him the Hollywood narrator. Like he has the most amazing recording, audio recording person. Anyway, back to the question. I didn't mean to digress. So interestingly, like if there is any time in the tech industry, I would probably say now is one of the a defining moment for us in the tech industry as developers, because not only we in the past, it's like, oh, which library should I use? Or even, if you're classically trained, like, which C# library, etc. But now it's more than that. You have to start thinking about, the context of data, how to make it applicable. And then there's this CoPilot AI. So now we're actually challenged to think not just about the technology, but also the amount of data that is out there. We were talking about sensors and things like that, right? And also the the interactivity as well, sorry, that's a third one. And then now it becomes, thinking about how can we be more ethical and responsible when we build these applications. I don't have like it's not a good answer, but this is the time for us having this discussion. So yeah, interesting question. So I'm glad that is being raised, because this is the kind of questions that we should continue ask, like how do we become more responsible and ethical with what we do? Yeah.
All right, we have another online question. Building on one of the questions above, I was able to create a developer environment and connect to a Dataverse legacy table. In the dev environment, I have elevated access and security. Can we be assured that this elevated access will not allow for inappropriate access back to the other environments?
Sounds like your question, Ethan. Do you want to take that?
Sure. Yes. So when we have, when you're dealing with the legacy tables and we have the elevated access and security in a developer environment, it is really maintained entirely within that developer environment. So if you have other environments within other environments that you have available within your tenant, you're not necessarily going to have that same elevated access across each one of those environments just because you have it in your developer environment. They're entirely segmented. So even if it's the same AAD user, each environment determines what the resources that the user has access to based on the administration panels that you've set.
Users of the app have personal protected data. Does it mean that they can access the same set of data as me, or can they access the set of data? So the Copilot would do the same thing for them as a user that it does for me?
So the question was that if I have a developer account that I'm using and then my users have productivity accounts, would they be able to access the same data and have the same experiences with Copilot? And the question just becomes whether we're talking environments or accounts. This particular question was talking about environments. So the developer environment is a separate environment than your production environment, in which case you would have different experiences. But in your question, are you talking about somebody, a developer who has...
Development account.
Okay.
Versus personal productivity.
But they're in the same...
Users have the personal productivity account, because every employee has by default personal productivity account. But I don't know for users if that is relevant. I don't even know.
But are they in the same environment, though, is my question. So for that, say you have an environment that you named Contoso, and the same people are in that same environment with different access. Is that what you're asking? Okay. Okay, so the difference here then is the difference in how we handle the access is if you're inside the same environment and you have different accounts, then whatever levels of permissions you've been granted for your account will have access to the tables that it has been granted to. And then, so the Copilot would behave appropriately based on which tables your account can access. That won't have any different effect when you move from one environment to the other, because each environment is configured separately for access. So the way to think about it is your environmental access is going to depend on how each account is set up in each environment. So an AAD user in environment A may not have the same permissions when they go to environment B because they may not have been granted the same permissions in both environments. They can, yes, they can have many environments. Well, even individual users can also have many environments. Like, yes.
So along those lines, within an environment, based on your different roles, how will we be able to control CoPilot for those different personas and those different roles?
So it should honor the roles. So like I mentioned before, where the Copilot aspect of it is the fact that it is translating natural language to the appropriate query language. But everything, once that query language is executed, everything like the roles, the permissions that it should honor, it's all on. It will just follow the same thing as if you were like writing a query against it, essentially.
So will Copilot present the question, let's say to a user who's not a maker in that environment, where they can say, add a column, and then what error message will be given to them if they're not a maker because they're a user? So are they going to even be presented with that option where they think they may be able to take these actions?
Yeah, so it would be the same experience today, right? For a lot of these capabilities, if you don't have permissions to create a table, that button's usually disabled. So it would be that similar experience, like an environment where there is no Dataverse, for example, that option wouldn't appear. If I don't have permissions in that environment to go and create an app, it's either disabled or I receive an error message saying, sorry, you don't have permissions.
And wait, hang on a second. It looks like we may have another message. The message is, your feedback is important. Yes, so just as you notice in the text, if you are online, we now have a link to give us our feedback because we are within 3 minutes of the end. So if you are on Teams, please provide your feedback. It's very valuable. Your opinions are important to us. Please stay on the line. I'm just kidding. But it is really important to us. Nobody asked any questions about elastic tables. Are there questions about elastic tables? No elastic table questions. Forget I mentioned elastic tables. No, so I just brought it up because I know that's a topic some people are interested in. Elastic tables are a new type of table that you are able to use when you have data in your Cosmos environment. So within Dataverse, you have multiple storage types. One of those is log storage, which is stored within Cosmos. To be able to access that data right now, it's much more difficult. But elastic tables are now available where you can build a table that will speak to Cosmos, and it's built for high data throughput and high data latency issues. And so you're able to get access to large volumes of log data or IoT data or other things and process them through like Power BI, for example, for doing analytics. So that is a new function that's available and is also releasing at the same time with Build. And it works very similar to a virtual table where you're building something that represents the data, even though the data is not in the relational table. I believe it is a GA as well, but I'm not 100% certain for that. So let's say it could be GA, and let's double check the documentation. That is correct. Yes, it's immediately available in the system. The question is it preview or GA? And that's to be determined because I don't remember. I believe that is it. We have no additional questions online. People are thanking you, so thank you.
Thank you.